Yeah, now I can't
Good.
hear him.
Yeah, I can't hear Mike. Mike, you there?
Yeah, I can't either.
Hardware
Is it
mute.
Oh, there
Mute
we
problem.
go. Okay,
Looks like
we're
we're
gonna
live.
be, we're gonna be quiet for 5 seconds here, and then I'm gonna start and I'll edit it. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Community's Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 691. My name is Eric Nielsen, and with me today I have my favorite co-host, Corey Romero. Today is May 22nd, Wednesday, May 22nd, and in the month of May, yeah, we're good. All right. Well, Corey Romero, how you doing today? Welcome back from your vacation. I know you were out last week, but great to see your smiling face. How is it up in Utah?
Utah is great. Came back from Costa Rica, and it's a little bit cold here, but it didn't come back to snow. I left and it was snowing and all melted now.
Come back and it's springtime. It is springtime, or it's now summer in the Bay Area. So we're in the mid 70s to low 80s sometimes. So beautiful weather. The color of the bay is just a nice muddy green. Not too calm, but it's been kind of windier than normal here this year in California. So it's continuing on that. We've had a lot of rain, but everything is good. On the show today, we're going to be talking. Our favorite topic is Fusion and Workstation, and there's news on that. But we got Michael Roy here to talk about all things with Workstation and Fusion. We can talk about what release we're on these days. I know I installed it, so it was super easy to install. And I'll let Mike talk about Michael talk about what that is and what it's like. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what's going on at VMware these days. Obviously, we have Explore. So Explore is happening. Reg is opening. Early bird registration is opening. I've watched the Reg on a daily basis. I've been looking at all the VMUG users that are registering right now. So I'm excited about that, seeing the numbers climb up day by day. And so that's happening again late August. Go to vmware.com/explore and you can go get your early bird reg discount that is happening right now. We had call for papers open. Call for papers have now closed. All the track owners are going through call for papers. I expect that if you get a paper accepted, you'll hear between now and June 6th. June 6th is the deadline for all papers to be in the system. And then notifications will probably be going out. So pay attention to that. The community sessions and the code sessions, we're doing the same thing. In the booth this year, there will be 25-minute sessions. That's for code and community sessions as well. So they're going to be pretty quick this year. V Brownbag always did them in 15 and 25 increments. We're just doing them in 25. All those notices will go out June 6th as well. So we were doing our work to get those. I think we had several hundred submissions, 250 submissions across both. We will be, going through those. We give extra credit for those that are community topics. And so if you're just doing a normal topic without community content, that's lowers your chance of us accepting that. And the code sessions, we're looking for code. So, examples, PowerShell scripting, getting on your laptop and showing us a little bit of code. There again, only 25 minutes. So, we'll see how that goes. So excited about that. That's happening. PowerShell labs are going to happen. Code labs are going to happen this year as well, all in content calendar, which I think is due out sometime in June. So Corey, I don't know if there's anything for vExperts that they should know about. Otherwise, we'll get to the fun of the show, which is Michael Roy with Fusion and Workstation.
The only thing I have for vExperts is Blogger passes. They're open for one more day. Blogger pass applications will be closing tomorrow, and I will be announcing. I'm hoping I'm going to be announcing by Friday, but if not, it'll be early next week.
All right, sweet. I know we're gonna have blogger tables in the booth as well. So VMUG's going to be in our community booth this year. So excited about that. So excited to see the bloggers. Stickers. We're going to have some stickers at the show. We'll have some community stickers. I know VMUG will have stickers, and if the bloggers bring stickers, I'm sure we'll have blogger tables to throw them out and share stickers along the way. I think that's all we got going on. So let's get to Michael Roy, who is going to be talking about Fusion and Workstation. So, Michael, good to have you back as always. Big news. I've watched you stream in the news. I think you're trending these days, 250,000 views or something like that. What's going on?
It's like 650,000, and I had to
There
turn
you
notifications off on my phone. You were mentioning
Yeah.
stickers earlier, and I'm looking forward to VMworld. I'll bring the remaining batch that I made a couple of years ago of all the Workstation and Fusion stickers, so we can get those all out.
I gotta say, I like the Fusion and Workstation graphics. I installed Fusion today, and the pop-up panel that gets you going, really pretty, really nice.
Oh, well, thank you. I made that myself, actually.
I recognized it from some of your tweets, and when I saw your tweets, I thought, wow, Michael did a really nice job on the graphics. Then I saw it pop up on the Fusion entry thing, and I thought, oh, you just stole it from Brand. That's from the product. You didn't do that, right?
No, I borrowed their colors, but no, my Photoshop and Illustrator licenses continue to serve me well.
Looks great. So what's going on?
Oh man, it's been an exciting couple of weeks, that's for sure. Finally got our big release out, which, illustrated or had all the components that were necessary to go live with our big announcement last week, which was that Fusion and Workstation Pro are both available free for personal use. It's a thrilling thing, like we had a mandate, which was, kind of reduce our product offering and as far as the number of SKUs and the complexity of it. And that, ended up translating to some 70 odd SKUs we brought down to one. And that one is a subscription SKU. So like if folks who need a commercial license, you can go ahead and buy that through your existing partners. So like, a lot of our customers from that side of the house have big agreements with VMware and then now Broadcom. And so they continue to buy through those channels. But like the store.vmware.com has gone away, and we've enlisted a new partner to sort of take care of all those orders from individuals. And basically what that means for folks is that if you're a student, you're learning virtualization, you're learning operating systems, whatever, you can use Workstation Pro, Fusion Pro for free. You just need to register for an account at broadcom.com, and through the support portal, manage to find your way through the maze and grab those bits. So we have a separate download that's specifically for these versions. But it's the same as that when you have like a product ownership entitlement. It's just the way that all the back end stuff had to kind of line up. And that's still evolving. I know that there's some challenges some of our users have been experiencing there. And I know that the team is aggressively working on it. When we told them we had a lot of users, I don't know that they really heard us, but I think they're feeling it now. The Workstation and Fusion community is huge. I mean, it's, we have millions upon millions of users, and we've been doing this for 25 years. So it's, no shock to me, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we have a nice experience and we're working through some of those challenges. So right now, like one of those kind of nuisances is that you need a corporate account, like a Gmail or an Outlook.com or a Hotmail account, because, Broadcom before us didn't have millions of customers, right? We only had a small number of gigantic ones, and that's, sort of how the business model worked. So for us, these requirements that we're working through, it's, there's some growing pains, but I think we're all learning from it, and we're trying to do right by the community and make sure that everyone gets access to these downloads. So
yeah, it's interesting because I have a commercial account that I set up at VMware years ago for testing, right? Eric Nielsen.inc, right? Or whatever, just so that I would have something that was a test account. And I actually bought a domain that from Network Solutions that would allow me to set up a bunch of email addresses, right? Like $5 a month or whatever, you get like 10 email or 20, and I use them for testing, right? And I had set up an account, and that account is on I domained it so that it's on a domain, and then it sounds official. So my account moved over from VMware, moved over to Broadcom, and I've had no problems, right? My entitlements, I didn't have any, but when I go into my Broadcom account now, it's there, and my Fusion and Workstation entitlements were right where they were supposed to be. And I downloaded them today on a Zoom meeting, right? While I was on a Zoom meeting, I just went and logged into my corporate account and was able to get my license. It was seamless and easy, and it worked. So obviously that's not happening for a lot of people, right? Because they did have a Google address. And so that would be, I'm sure, problematic. And I know they're working on all of that. But I would say that if you do get your account, the entitlements, if you get into your account and it's working, the entitlements were there. I was able to download Fusion version, 12 dot whatever it is. I forget what the latest version is. And you gave me 4 or 5 versions to download. I downloaded them, ran the installer, picked up a Windows 10 OS off the internet, an ISO image, and before the end of the Zoom meeting, I had the Windows login, up and running on my Mac, which is great. I run still an Intel Mac, obviously, right? So I haven't done the M2 scenario quite yet on that, but
that
really
explains
straightforward.
That explains why you didn't use the built-in Get Windows feature. Because I was like, hey, wait a minute, why are you hunting for Windows 10 ISOs? There's a Windows 11 button right there that we just built, but it's only available on the Apple Silicon Macs. Because trying to find that ISO for Microsoft, and it comes preloaded with all of our drivers and everything, right? But if you want to download that for ARM, it's a little more challenging, right? So you have to, there's some backflipping that you basically would have had to do. And then when you finally would download it, it doesn't have all of our drivers, what we call inboxed. So like with Windows, Intel, we actually work with Microsoft, and Microsoft has a variety of our virtual drivers built into the operating system. And so when we update them, we give them Microsoft, they include them in Windows, and that's why things work out of the box. And so there's like network adapters is like the main one, really. And so for us on Apple Silicon, like we don't have an Intel network adapter to emulate. And so instead we use, a different one, and we needed drivers for that. So the nice thing about Apple Silicon now is that we built with 13.5, which we shipped in like November. It was literally like the last thing that the company shipped before the acquisition. So I hang my hat on that. But we included this new feature where basically you can click a button, it'll automatically download the latest version of Windows 11 from Microsoft. And we call this script, we get their inventory of all the objects that go into it. We build the ISO, and while we're building the ISO, we put our drivers into it so that they're already there. So that way, when you go through the installation, it's just like an out-of-box experience as if you're opening up a brand new computer. The networking works. You sign into your Microsoft account, and your OneDrive shows up. You can even restore another computer from the workflow. So the idea of converting a machine, you don't even need to do that anymore. You can just restore your applications, and if everything's stored in OneDrive, everything just shows up, all your documents and stuff too. So it's a really nice experience.
It's a really nice experience, and I was quite surprised because I'm used to, I think the last time I did Fusion was maybe 5 or 6 years ago before the pandemic, where I, got things running because I needed it for something. And this is really smooth, right? Like the idea that you do the OS install while installing Fusion was new to me, right? Like I hadn't seen that. I'm used to installing Fusion, then creating a VM and, putting my OS on it, right? Where this was all just like drag and drop the ISO image right onto the panel, and all of a sudden I was up like 12 minutes later while I was on a Zoom meeting, right? So this was all going on in real time, downloading everything, downloading the ISO while I was on a Zoom meeting, which was like impressive, really, really smooth.
Well, that's a testament to, I think, modern hardware, right? Like particularly Apple hardware, they've been innovating at a breakneck pace, and, Moore's law be danged. They're just, pushing forward, and it's not even so much about doubling the number of cores and transistors inside of these things every iteration. It's more about getting more efficient with them, and then adding things that are use case specific. So the neural engine, when they're doing AI ML things, like the metal GPU on die now, it's like the CPU has a graphics adapter on it. So everything is tight and right there. You can't beat that kind of stuff, especially when you have a full control over the operating system, which kind of gives you, leads into an interesting, topical matter, which is Microsoft released a bunch of new PCs yesterday or the day before. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Microsoft released these new Copilot AI PCs that are ARM Snapdragon based. And their big thing is that it's faster and more battery efficient than the MacBook Air M3, which is a pretty tall tale. Right? That's a big claim, right? These things are, it's been a long time to see it. That's since we've seen Intel catch up, and they're still not there. And so for this to kind of come out of left field seemed really exciting. So I asked a question on Twitter, hey, do you guys want to see Workstation run on these things? It's ARM. So we're kind of limited to the same situation with Apple Silicon, whereby you would only be able to run ARM VMs, and we're not going to emulate an x86 operating system or virtual hardware on top of that. So, is that something that folks want to do? So far, we're hearing positive things, so we'll see. But if we wanted to do it, it's going to take a lot of engineering work. So we gotta know that there's going to be users there for us if we're going to want to go down that road. But it's really exciting to see the market competition. So like back to your point, you know, all this hardware that's been coming up, you know, there's never been a time where it's faster and more efficient to run virtual machines on a local machine. You know, like the computer I'm sitting in front of right here, I'm on my Mac through the stream, but like my machine beside me, I've got Workstation up, and I just built this thing, I don't know, November, December, something like that, around Christmas time, maybe even later. I can't. It took a bunch of months to get all the parts, so I don't, you know, whatever, because I built it all myself. But it's like an i9, 24 core, up to like 5.5, 6 gigahertz. It bursts, 120 gigs of RAM, and you know, and an SSD that hits like 20 gigabit a second. Which is just mind-boggling. Like I can run an entire vSphere lab as a bunch of VMs, all, you know, in real time.
It's crazy.
You know, I used to be able to do that with like 16 gigs of RAM. They have a bunch of ESX hosts that are like 4 gigs, and now I can do like 4 16 gig ESX hosts and put vCenter on one of them, and like, you know, it still smokes. So, you know, it's never been this awesome. When I started at VMware in 2009, we still had 5,400 RPM spinning metal Rust drives.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And, you know, 8 gigs of RAM was the high end configuration. They would ship with 2 or 4. And if you had 4 cores, it was like, holy cow, like look out, right? But yeah, and we were able to still make it all work with those tiny resources. It's incredible how
one
much come along.
One of my old interview questions was, what's the difference between memory and disk, right? Like, tell me all the differences between memory and storage. For a marketing guy that comes in interviews, I want to make sure that they understood computer architecture a little bit, right? And now I actually ask that question, I'm like, well,
the lines are blurred.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like, well, they're all chips nowadays, right? So like, yeah, it's interesting. Getting back to, you know, this coming out, right, and you know, getting this out and the Broadcom availability of new technology. I feel like we're finally making forward progress on releasing things from VMware by Broadcom, right? And I gotta ask, like, you know, because I experienced this, but it was one of these wow moments. Like, when I install, where do I put my license key? How do I do this? Because, you know, it always says, oh, it's free. But then I'm like, well, I got to go find some manage some free code and figure out where it is. And like, I like that Microsoft now gives me Windows 10 and says, oh, you don't want a license? No problem. You'll deal with it later, right? What are
Windows
you guys
11
doing?
as well.
Yeah, Windows 11, sure. Yep. What are you guys doing with Fusion Workstation? How do I go about getting my free license?
Yeah, we definitely learned from when we had done this with Player. And so with like Workstation Player, we just made it free as a, you know, you could download it and it was, you know, the license was baked into it and it didn't matter. With Fusion Player, you had to like register for a key. And so in order for us to sort of get buy-in to do that, it was like, well, let's make sure that we at least get their email addresses, right? And put them somewhere and count, you know, that way we can at least say how many unique users do we have, right? It wasn't about like marketing to them. It was more just like understanding the volume of our community, right?
Right.
And so that mattered and that was useful, but it became cumbersome. You know, with every version, they had to go get a new key. And then at the same time, getting that key, you know, there was some export controls and some folks in certain countries couldn't get it. And that's important. And we had to, you know, maintain that stuff. But at the same time, folks that weren't supposed to be in those type of controls were like blocked for similar reasons. And so it became a bit of a problem. And so what we decided was like, hey, you know, we like the model that Player has, which is that if you need it for corporate use, you can pay for that license. But for the community, it's a learning tool, right? There's a lot of really interesting commercial applications and they're important for us, right? And so, but at the same time, we don't want to like nickel and dime those our personal users all the time. And so what we did with this one is we didn't want to waste time. We didn't want to like, you know, back and forth nickel and dime the users. And so what we decided was like, hey, let's just bake that license into the product like we did with Workstation Player. And that'll be the same for Fusion Pro and Workstation Pro. And so that's what we did. And we shipped Workstation 17.5.2 and Fusion 13.5.2. It's just a bit of a weird, odd .z number to ship an update like that with. But it was just had to do with timing and our release cadences and when we branch and all this other engineering backend, you know, shenanigans. That's just how we ship and when we ship software and things like that. So because the acquisition happened just as we had like transitioned to a whole new software branch. And we generally would do that like once a year. And so like, for example, ESX has a major branch, and then we branch off of that like once a year. We're based off of the ESX hypervisor code. And so every year we update that. And so it just fell in a really weird in-between time when we were in the middle of that branch. And so we put the update just because it was a date-driven thing and we needed to get it out now. And so, yeah, so basically now you just download either of those products. The license keys are built into it. If you have an existing commercial license, it just stays. Everything continues to work. Nothing changes. All the support entitlements are there if you have an active subscription. If you don't, we are working through some folks who didn't have active SNS as an add-on, the support subscription, extra SKU that you could buy. That if you bought it, you would get basically the same thing that you get with a subscription, is that automatic updates to major versions when we ship them. And so now that's just going to be taken care of. But if you're, like I said, if you're a customer from before, everything will continue. And we're also not shipping a major licensing change this year. And so there's not going to be, this isn't like some bait switch where it's like, hey, in 2 months, we're going to release another product and we're going to require everybody to upgrade. Like, no, we're going to probably extend the life cycle for this existing product for another year and give folks a chance to transition with some grace. And so that'll work out really well. But at some point in time, folks are going to need to migrate over to the new subscription SKU to get continued product version updates. But at the same time, if your commercial subscription expires, we're not going to like turn off your VMs. That would be pretty disruptive. And so instead we do is we basically drop down to the personal license. And the personal license has some Chrome in the UI that says this is not licensed for commercial use. And there's some warnings that say, hey, you got X number of days in your license, you need to renew it. So that way we're trying to thread the needle here of, having this thing widely available, still meeting our contractual obligations with our customers while still being able to show the breadth and depth and the value of the community itself while giving back, and at the same time being able to fund the engineering team. There's a few simultaneous backflips happening here, but I'm thrilled that we were able to pull it off, and the community seems to have appreciated it. So I'm all for pushing harder on that.
That's what I would say. There's a couple points here, and I'll start with the simple one because my deal is a simplification. When that thing came up, it said personal use checkbox where the license panel was, and I just clicked it, and that was it. I was done. It took me 8 seconds, right, to read the panel and go, oh, personal use, click. And that was it. License was over. Versus in the old days, I'd have to go, oh, okay. Like I almost want to go buy a license. It's easier. Like here, I'll spend my $175 or whatever it was, and I'll just buy it because it just was easier than going to track down where to go find a personal code that's free because it's supposed to be free, but I have to give my firstborn child's, home address, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm joking, but it's like, it's just, there's a lot of offers like that. This is not the case. This was booted up. It came up, the panel came up. I read the little license thing and and then I went, there's a checkbox, personal use. You couldn't miss it. Click. And okay, great. And then I went through and I was running Windows, 7 minutes later, right? It was great, right? So that's really neat. The second point is there's a lot going on behind the scenes with a lot of the, big name VMware people. Everybody's working really hard to move VMware forward as VMware by Broadcom. And this is just another instance of that. And I would say that Broadcom is pretty good at being flexible and trying to meet the objectives of, many of us that want to, drive the programs forward, whether it be Flings or whether it be the online community or whether it be VMUG. There's a lot of people that want to move it forward, love VMware, and Broadcom hasn't stood in the way. They are generally a good company to, personally, it's just that right now we're in this space where we're taking two multi-billion-dollar companies and banging them together from a systems perspective. And that's just where I see a lot of greatness happening behind the scenes. And I see a lot of goodness coming out in products like this, the click button personal use. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. But then we're still in this year of merging two big companies that tend to get in the way sometimes. So thank you for doing all that great work because it is amazing. I was like, wow, this is great. right?
We definitely are thrilled that we had the support from leadership all the way down to make it happen, because we had to put in that extra effort to go through the motions. But like, to your point though, like the team, the central teams within Broadcom have been very receptive to what we've been trying to do. They recognize that, hey, we have this giant community, we have this, how do we, it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of analogies that that can be thrown around, but it's kind of nebulous, right? Like, it's not easy to say. It's not transactional, right? It's not like everyone comes in here, you give money, you get product, and away you go, right? Like, we're giving this to the community in the hopes that you will learn virtualization that will improve your career, and you'll think fondly of us when you come to make, decisions for your environment, when you are in a position to make those decisions, right? Like, so it's a longer play than I think than one might see on the surface, right? Because it's really about seeding that education, right? Making sure that folks know VMware and know what we can do. And it's an example of us too, right? Like, the better we do there, the more it looks like we know what we're doing in the data center. Even though they're slightly different, the fact that we can exercise the hypervisor with Workstation and Fusion as we move forward with the ARM stuff is invaluable to us, right? The amount of use cases that people throw down on top of Workstation, is wild. And so when we get support tickets where they're like, I'm trying to do this weird thing, but it's got this, error inside of this workflow that I'm trying to do, which on a physical system is fine. We identify a bug, we fix that bug. And then when we start to, bring that back into vSphere, that bug was never there in the first place because we already fixed it on the desktop. Because we generally ship some of the software on the desktop before it actually goes into vSphere, which is, another one of the incredible reasons that keeps us around. Because not only do we test the variety of use cases and the breadth of users who are using them, but also we get to do it with technology really early, right? And so we put it there and battle harden it, if you will, and then we refine that so that we put it in ESX. It's it's already battle hardened by the time we do it.
So we spent a lot of time, talking about the current, and it's a bad thing because I even fault other people. Like, could we talk about tech for a little bit? Do we have to keep talking about Broadcom and the transition and all that? So I'll up level a little bit. Like, so what's new in the products? Like, what's exciting? What gets you excited about what we can do? And I know you're always marching forward with developer kind of integrations and other things. So what do you want to tell the world about what you think is going to happen this year and what's new?
Yeah, well, I mean, to kind of share a little bit about what we've already done. This whole Windows 11 on Apple Silicon was a huge amount of work for us. To the point where there are features that I wish we had the time to have put into Workstation that didn't make it because we were busy focusing on these features for Fusion. Right? And we're not even all the way done yet. We still have a few things to take care of, like shared folders, for example. That's high on my list, the top thing, and poor engineering team hears me rant about it every single meeting that we have. Where are we at with this feature, guys? But that's important. We need to have that one in there. But, what we shipped with 13.5 and, as we've been iterating, was really about like bringing Windows 11 support where it needs to be, which is that now you can click a button, download it, builds our drivers. The drag and drop functionality is there, so you can still get files in and out of the guest. And it's kind of stupid fast. Like, I did a podcast on it like a while ago, and I was just showing where you can drag like a 10 gig file from the desktop on the Mac and drop it into Windows 11, and it goes in 3 seconds, 4 seconds, like as fast as the hard drive can take it almost, which is 8 gigabits a second or something, depending.
It's stupid fast. I was telling somebody that yesterday. Sorry, I'll interrupt for a second, but when they were thinking about getting a new Mac, they're on an old Mac, and I'm like, look, you can go buy yourself a Mac Air, the new Mac Air, and it'll be the fastest computer you've ever been on in your entire life, right? The silicone is just so fast that everything you do, it's just, you just go, wait, did that just happen? Right? Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it was a huge leap, but it's cool to see the competition coming up. I mean, if you look at sort of Apple's march forward with M1, 2, 3, and 4, they're all fairly incremental on top of themselves, right? They got to this new architecture. It's a really small manufacturing process. I think it was started at 4. Now then they went to 3. And now they're at like a 3 nanometer plus model, which is what they're shipping the M4 iPads on. I picked one of those up. It's stupid fast as well. I got the 13-inch M4 iPad just last week, and folks are like, "Oh, can we run like Windows on that? And let's put that in a virtual machine." It's like, well, iPad OS is still iPad OS, and those APIs don't exist, and so we physically can't. unless we wanted to like jailbreak the thing, in which case that's not
Right.
happening. And I don't even know
Right.
if the CPU has those extensions because they use custom silicon for all their stuff anyway. And we haven't like, disassembled it. But as far as we know, those APIs aren't there, and that's not going to happen. But yeah, if you look at those generational skips, I mean, it's still only like 30% faster than the previous gen, 20% faster. So like I have an M1 Ultra. That thing is still like of the top 6 or 7 fastest computers that Apple has created. It's on the top of their multi-core charts, but it's still an M1. So like we're on like M3, right. M4 right now, but they're kind of like they hit this curve and it's starting to crest a bit. And so now there's opportunity where I'm seeing Microsoft and Qualcomm kind of sneaking up, which is good. This competition is fantastic. What we need is like what we don't want is what we had with the latest generation of Apple Macs that had Intel,
right?
Which was like I've got an i9 2019 model right here, 64 gigs of RAM. It's a beautiful thing. That I love the chassis, the small, thin. It's almost like an iPad Air. But you turn this thing on, and the instant you do anything, it sounds like a jet taking off. The fans all kick in, and it just
yes, yeah,
and it's wild, right? And then you get like an hour and a half of battery life, and then that's it.
Right.
So I'm loving seeing where we're moving in this direction of like, the performance is there, but like you can get all day battery life, and to your point on the MacBook Air, you don't need a fan. You can use that on your lap, which I don't know if you've noticed. Real quick sidebar is Apple calls their computers laptops now. They never used to do that. You could go onto their website, use the Wayback Machine. I dare anyone to do this, and look on their website. Anything that predated even I don't know if it was M1 where they made the change or M2, one of the two, but they only called them notebooks before. So a MacBook was an Apple notebook because you weren't supposed to use them on your lap because you could burn yourself. Before I started at VMware, I worked for AppleCare, and that was one of the things that we had learned is how to describe the use of the technology. And it was like, this is not a laptop computer. You're not supposed to use it on your lap, because we would get calls for folks saying, hey, it's really hot. And you're like, it's not a laptop. Yep. Right. But now, because everything's so cool and they don't have fans and they don't need to worry about it, they decided to call it a laptop again, which, kudos. Now it's easy to like make the comparison. And when I'm writing about it, I can say like, hey, these laptop computers, and I don't have to like draw the line between the two. Like, we all know what's going on. Right. But
well, the power consumption is also big, right? Like now you can have multiple OSs running. It's super fast, and it stays up like a phone all day long, all night long. I don't even think about charging it anymore, right? And it used to be that would run for the first, quarter or two, maybe half a year to a year when you get a new machine. But then over like, X number of 300 cycles later, your battery cycles later, you're back into you can run it for 2 hours, 3 hours, and then you have to recharge it. But no, that whatever they're doing sleep technology wise, in the M's are just crazy good at conserving battery.
And to the point that I was making earlier too, like I'm currently on an M1 MacBook Pro, and it's still, I can't keep up with it. I remember back in the day, it was like my whole thing for a computer was I need a computer that keeps up with me, right? Like I'm a power user, I'm a developer, I know what I'm doing. I need to get through the craft and do my thing, and I don't want to wait. And so, for me, Apple always made that possible to a point. But after they switched to the M1, there's never been a scenario where I'm like, oh man, I'm tired of waiting. Everything's always just zip. And I'm super nice to see that also coming to the PC now. Like I said, this machine behind me it feels 10 times faster than my MacBook Pro, which is weird. It's Windows and it's still Windows, but it's like, it's an order of magnitude compared to my, only a couple years older than that machine. And so it's really great to see Apple or Microsoft also leaning in that ARM direction, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, what a time. Like I said back earlier, there's never been a better time to run VMs on the desktop.
Yeah, and getting back to the fact that you brought Workstation Fusion over into the cloud, the VCF organization, right? And you've told me many times that the guts of this is basically the same guts as what we're doing for vSphere or ESX. The hypervisor technology is the same technology. Do you see alignment? I mean, you also spend time over in VCF doing other VCF stuff, so this isn't your only role being the head marketing evangelist, product manager, whatever role you are with when it comes to Workstation and Fusion. But do you see, like for me, VMware now is virtual machines again, right? Like it's all about the virtual machines. It's all about data center. Do you see some alignment now that we're focused back on SDDC and the data center and VMs and less about cloud everywhere and more about, data center tech? Do you see alignment there? Does that,
yeah, I do. Yeah. And it's part of like why we're here, right? Like we didn't get spun off with end user computing when, as that's going to Omnissa. That's, kudos to those folks over there. They're great, folks, colleagues that I've had work with over the years over the end user computing team. But it just makes a lot more sense for us to be in vSphere given our technology overlap. But at the same time, as we look down the road, we're absolutely looking for those opportunities. So we're going to be on a bit of a road tour to try and talk to some of our, our customers who align in this way, and that they're big VMware customers who are also big Desktop Hypervisor customers, and like, okay, what can we do better to bring these things together? Like we have some hunches, where, hey, you've got this great library of content inside of your vSphere environment. How can we make it easy to consume that from a laptop or a Desktop Hypervisor, right? And then at the same time, how can we easily build something on the Desktop Hypervisor that's easy to move and get into vSphere and drive there, whether that's a VM or a bunch of containers in some sort of cluster, right? So there's a lot that we can think about there. And I think that before we start, putting engineering hours in, we really want to hear from those customers. So like as a case in point, I'm going to be at VMware Explore this year. And, we're going to be talking to a lot of customers there. So I'm looking forward to hearing what folks want out of this. But like I said, where I feel like it's going is really about how do we've already got some connectivity there. Like, so we're already kind of like a minimal, sharp, old thick client for vSphere.
Right.
You can do a bunch of things within the Workstation UI. It's, C++, native Windows app, and likewise in Fusion, all Cocoa and Carbon, because we're not Swift on that side of the house yet. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. We'll see how it goes. Even if you start looking at the developer stuff,
right.
You have like the Tanzu application catalog as a case in point, or like this huge Bitnami catalog that's all there where you can click button and deploy stuff. So we're trying to see just what makes the most sense. But what matters is that we're in the right home for that. We have all the right alignment for that. All of our teams have sort of been brought together. So we're not operating like we're 10 different companies, or I should say like, 4 or 5 startups in a trench coat is what I used to say. Right. And so now it really feels like we're one team, we're marching in the same direction. And that's across the board. So like, like you and I have been working on the VMware community stuff, both, helping out with the community forums, making sure they're up to date, as well as going through the VMUG podcast and the VMUG webcast that we've been doing, as well as the user cons, right?
Yeah.
So my whole thing is, if we're going to do all these big changes, we got to make sure our community knows about them and is aware of how to be successful with all this stuff. So that's sort of my mission going forward, is like, part of it is how do we, make the best out of Workstation and Fusion, but also taking what I've been working on in the community so much, which is, making life easy for all of our users and trying to make them successful, and bringing that with a VCF and VVF flavor. So like vSphere, VMware Cloud Foundation and VMware vSphere Foundation are two big products, right?
All right. So we got 5 minutes left, or maybe 12 minutes, but we'll do 6 minutes with you, and then we'll do some barbecue at the end. But I got to go forward technology question. I used to say, where are we going with cloud? But we're not in the cloud space as much anymore. But I will say this: where are we going with AI and code generation? And I like to ask the guests, like, where do you think, from a computer science perspective, how do you think this is going to impact some of our stuff that we're touching? Because I think it's going to touch everything over time. Broadcom is talking about building AI chips, application-specific AI chips for Facebook, and like, so I always want to loop back to, do you see AI, and has any of this piqued your interest?
Yeah, I'm super dialed into it. When it first came out, I was like, hype. But I'd worked with folks in the community like Justin Murray and, the folks in the BitFusion team before him. Yeah. And so like they've been dealing with this stuff when it was just the data scientists, and they were just doing like, how do I build protein models and things like that. And so there's been a lot of evolution happening here. And so for me, I feel like I'm looking forward to what happens just after the chatbot hype goes away.
Yes, thank you.
Chatbots are cool, right? Like we can do that thing. I built some.
Yeah, right. Right. Andy is talking chatbot still. I went to a VMUG in Colorado.
Oh, Andy
and
Jassy?
No. Oh, sorry, Justin, not Andy. Justin.
Oh, Justin.
Justin
Yeah.
Murray, yeah, is talking chatbots. I'm like, oh, that's nice, but like, no, code development, auto code development. And he did mention vSphere, and they ran vSphere source space and then ask it to go build some more components on vSphere, and it wrote code for it. So there's things more than just chatbots.
Yeah, I think that the natural language understanding and action and reaction is going to be a bigger thing, right? Like I know like Darren Shepard, if folks know the industry, he worked on Rancher and whatnot. Dude's a stand-up guy. I've watched a bunch of his podcasts recently, his live streams. And so he's worked on a technology called GPT script, where it's an actual programming language that you write using natural language, which is wild, right? And so you would write the word like function or tool and like what the tool describes and then how you arrange them. And it's like, it takes away the complexity of all the syntax and just gets down to like, okay, no, I really want this to do this. And so I feel like that stuff's getting interesting. I also feel like what's happening in just in general is that there's a lot of information now. Everything is more complex than it's ever been. There's more information, and then that information is more nuanced, and there's a lot of sublayers, and everything's super broad and super deep nowadays. So where AI really can help, and I hate to use the term AI, but where these modelers and natural language processors can help is being able to distill that information. Like, I don't want this thing to write a blog post for me. I want this thing to like consume a whole bunch of different blog posts and then like tell me like, hey, what's the pattern here? Or what's this overarching theme here? And so like, I want to be able to throw a whole bunch of data at a chat bot and then just be like, hey, like tell me about this or that, or make a chart for me, or what do I tell my boss that's going to make what I'm doing look good, that kind of stuff. Like, yeah. So I really think that just being able to manage the information overload in the digital age is where this stuff is going to really help, because humans, our meat brains just can't keep all that stuff in check. So the idea of having co-pilots and these assistants that are going to help us through our days, I also kind of worry it's going to make us a little dumber. If everything is handled for us, we don't have to think hard about things. Well, then how are we ever going to exercise our brains, right? So I worry about that. But it also opens up a new door to creativity. So I don't know. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, for me, it's like I would just love my new M2 or M3 to be able to realize that it's Wednesday and it should have StreamYard up, and it should, make sure that the internet's speedy enough that I still do some very rudimentary tasks just to go about my day, that I feel like an AI engine running on a M2 would maybe help me, right? Like just debug things.
That's where you could see Microsoft going, that the whole Copilot AI PC as like an AI PC as a category, right? Like they're really trying to blaze the trail there. And so I think WWDC with what Apple is going to put out this year is also going to probably look in that direction. I have literally no insight into this on the Apple side, but like, just knowing that WWDC is coming and this is, a big thing in the zeitgeist, you can imagine they're going to do something similar. So
they're going to have to do something to freeze the market, like Microsoft used to do. I know that I got somebody in my neighborhood, I'll just say, because I don't want to out him, that worked on the car project at Apple. They're not allowed to talk about what they worked on, but I know that he got redirected to now AI. That when they collapsed all the car engineers, they gave all the car engineers, the self-driving car engineers, onto their AI projects. So that they're ramping that up. So something's going to come from Apple sooner or later, because they redirected all the cars.
I didn't know that Apple had a car team. Huh, go figure.
They had
talked about that at all.
I think Elon Musk and them must have got angry with each other at somewhere maybe 5 or 7 years ago, and so the Tim spun up a whole car. They had a whole car team, but not anymore.
On any of that.
We have
insider knowledge. We're not supposed to talk about it.
Oh yeah, you shouldn't. I have no insider knowledge. All I would say is that I would expect Apple to come out with something sooner or later, because I know they put engineers on it. That's all I know. So
That's true.
Yeah, that'll be good.
So, but one thing's for sure is I'm just super looking forward to explore, where I can finally come back down, meet folks in person, hear what they want to do. And if folks didn't know, I'm actually going to be one of the judges for the hackathon that we're having.
Oh,
yes, so I actually started talking with Frankie just this week on getting started there. So super excited. Plans
we
are
have
still early, but
again, goodness to Broadcom and the VMware by Broadcom. They've given us money to do the hackathon, and I said, over my dead body, will we ever have it in the venue ever again? Last year we had it in the cafeteria of the venue. This year we're looking for a hall outside, somewhere in Vegas that we can go have a cool space and do a bigger, better hackathon than we've had since 2016. So
we're at the Venetian. So is the Sphere available? Have we checked?
Yeah, we should check. There you go. Yeah. We have some big code thing rolling around. The code logo's around. We could do that. No, I think our
blanket Fusion logos all over the thing.
Yeah. There you go. Well, and I know that we talked to Frankie about yesterday. He came back. Hey, I talked to Michael too, and I was like, awesome. Yeah, we're so it's exciting that we're gonna get to do a better one this year than we've ever probably have, and we get some love from Fusion and Workstation. Maybe give everybody personal free licenses. Oh wait, we don't have to do that anymore because they're just baked in. It's just a checkbox now. I don't need a card. I still have the metal container you gave me with the platinum Fusion card. I still got it on my desk, like it's with a CD. There it is. Yeah, there you go.
I
there
still
you go.
do too.
Fusion 10. Right, I got that still on my desk. And Broadcom now, they moved us from offices to cubes, and I had to consolidate my office down to just taking like 2 or 3 things, and that made the cut, right? Like that's the one, the Fusion 10 Platinum kit, I guess we'd call it, right? So cool stuff.
Yeah, I was really grateful. We had support from Pat Gelsinger to do that, and he had signed a little card on the inside. I mean, wasn't his real signature, but he endorsed.
He endorsed. No
one could take that stamp and put on a check. And
right. Oh, right. That's funny. Yeah, but so in a real sense now, hackathons there, we give away Fusion. You used to be great at handing us these Fusion and Workstation cards, and we give them to everybody. We'd always have 200 or 300 of them that we'd give them. Now it's just baked in. But love that. But we'll figure out other cool things to do at the hackathon this year. So I'm excited about that one. Yeah. All right. Well, we made it to the top of the hour. Lunch goes by fast when Michael, you've come and joined us. So at the top of the hour, if you want to go watch what Michael looks like, we live stream it on YouTube, youtube.com/VBarbecue, VBARBECUE. Go check out what Michael looks like. And if you see him at Explorer, go register for Explorer. Go look for him there. I know he'll have a session or two, and we'll get him. We'll get you there. See what he looks like. So barbecue wise,
look for these sneakers. You'll find them.
Oh, you got a pair of the sneakers. There you go. Yeah. Good man. Barbecue. You're in Northern California.
Sacramento.
What's your favorite barbecue?
These days I've actually been super into my air.
Hey Corey, you unmuted. Corey, there you go. There you go.
I've been super into my air fryer of all things. Barbecues have been great, but like mine, I just cleaned out a wasp nest from it the other day. I'm actually angling for a flat grill, like a griddle. I don't really do brisket. I want to get like a smoker for that, but like I've been really seeing some folks have a lot of success with the griddle.
Yeah, especially if you get some sauces, right? You put, you get Korean barbecue sauce or anything like that, and you just put it on the griddle. It's pretty nice. Yeah, you can do some really interesting meats that way. Clearly, teriyaki and all that kind of stuff has just always been griddle fried,
even
pan
burgers,
fried.
Though, you can sear like the edge of the burger instead of like having to char it.
Yeah, what me and my wife have talked about now that I'm like, I think 62, we're going like, maybe we need to do vegetables like 5 nights a week, like go kind of quasi-vegan and only save the barbecue till like a Saturday. So, but I am going to start looking for some more healthy options to do some to barbecue, because you can do some.
Real quick, I've been on a bit of a kick there with my partner lately, and the one thing that like I ended up losing 10 pounds over the past month and a half, which is I don't need to lose that. But what we really did was mostly cut out carbs. So we'll make like meat, right? We'll have like barbecue, like whatever meat, and then salad. And then just no potatoes, no rice, no bread. And what a difference even just doing that makes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, cut out the
No
rice and the
sugar.
bread. Yeah, no
And
sugar.
the sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sugar. So, all right. Well, yeah, we're at the top of the hour. Michael Roy, thanks for doing all the great work with the community, with VMUG, with Workstation Fusion, with VCF, just everything all over the place. Without you, I wouldn't think it would be the same VMware. So, thanks a lot for all the hard work and exciting. You deserve the 500,000 notifications on your iPhone or whatever it is you run these days. No question.
I appreciate that. I really do.
All right, we're done for the day. We'll be back again next week, as always. Actually, I think we're skipping next week. I'm in vacation. How many down the Keys? I'm finally taking a vacation, so yay for me. Get a little bit of time off, and we'll be back at it the week after next. I think we're going to come talk about VMware Rewards when we come back, because they're launching all the programs, and Broadcom spends money on giving away stuff. So go swag. That'll be fun. All right, till then, everybody go get some barbecue and have a great rest of your week.